In this video, we are going to absolutely rock how to solve one-step inequalities using multiplication or division, and you know that we've got the potential to possibly multiply or divide by negative numbers. Look out! Let's do it. So we've got a over negative 7 is greater than 4. How do we solve that? Well, basically you treat this as any old one-step equation. You want to isolate a. That's our goal. But in doing that, notice that we've got a negative number we're going to be operating with multiplication. That's going to affect our inequality signs and the way in which they're facing. We went over that in a previous video. It's pretty cool stuff. So to undo division by negative 7, we multiply by negative 7. So I'm going to multiply by negative 7. Now, that isolates that variable, but before we isolate it, let's make sure we do the same thing to both sides of the inequality, just like we would do in an equation. Negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1. The second that you multiply by negative 7, though, that inequality sign has to change directions. Don't wait till the end to do it right away. So if you multiply or divide by a negative number on both sides of an inequality, you are 100% switching the direction of the inequality sign. And again, check out an earlier video on why that works. So I've got a isolated, and then I've got 4 times negative 7, which is negative 28. We're also asked to graph each solution. That's not so bad. So I draw out a number line. I'm just going to do a rough graph of it. Small little number line. We'll put the number 0 here and the number negative 28 here. We have all numbers less than negative 28, so that would mean don't include negative 28 and all the numbers below it. And that's it. Not so bad. A lot like solving an equation. Just be careful with those negative numbers. Negative 80 is less than or equal to 2x. Now, a lot of people like to switch this around and rewrite it as 2x is greater than or equal to, it's still opening to the 2x there, negative 80. I'd actually prefer just solving it straight up from this direction. It does not matter which way you go, but a lot of people are comfortable with this, so I figure I'll show it this way. We want to undo multiplication by 2, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. Now, we divided by a positive 2 here. What that means is we do not change the signs. I realize that negative 80 is a negative number, but we did not actively divide by a negative number. We're dividing by positive 2. And so the inequality stays the same. I note that first. The 2's divide out, isolating x, and negative 80 divided by 2 is negative 40. So our answer is x is greater than or equal to negative 40. Okay, draw out a little number line, and I'll put 0 here. I'll put negative 40 right here. Now it's greater than or equal to, so I'm going to include the negative 40 and then shade in all the numbers more than negative 40. Sweet. Okay, so on to number 3. We've got m over negative 4 is less than or equal to negative 3. So in this problem here, we're going to have to undo division by negative 4. Well, how do we do that? We multiply both sides by negative 4. So we're going to multiply both sides of the inequality by negative 4. Automatically, your inequality sign should switch. The fact that this was negative doesn't really matter in terms of whether we switch the signs. It's the fact that we multiplied by negative 4 that dictates that. So now we've got negative 4's divide out, isolating m. We've already switched the inequality, and now we focus on negative 3 times negative 4, which is a positive 12. So m is greater than or equal to 12, which means all numbers more than or equal to 12 work here. So I'll have 0 and then 12. And now we're going to include 12 or any numbers greater than it. Very cool. Finally, last but certainly not least, we've got a straight up regular old problem. You know what? I'm gonna be a little funky here. Let's put a negative right there. Why not? So I'm going to make it negative 2f is less than or equal to 90. So now how do we do this one out? We undo multiplication by dividing by negative 2. You've divided by a negative here. So we are going to switch the signs. And negative 2 divided by negative 2 cancels to 1. So we're left with f is greater than or equal to 90 divided by negative 2 is negative 45. And we'll graph that one out. So we got negative 45 here. I'll put a 0 there. We have all numbers equal to 45 or more. That's it. There's 4 solid problems involving multiplication and division to solve one-step inequalities. Remember, if you multiply or divide by a positive number, the sign of the inequality does not switch. But if you multiply or divide by a negative number, immediately switch those signs. Awesome, awesome stuff.